Welcome back, fight fans. It's your boy Ak.
And I'm Barack, the boxing bully.
And this is the DAZN Boxing Show. And we have, I want to call him a professional fighter because he is 1-0, but he's also Mr. Adventure. I mean, this guy does so much. And we're having him on the show right now, joining us, Tristan Hamm.
What's up, brother?
Hey, guys. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me on the show. Thanks for everybody watching.
Listen, you're coming off a big knockout victory in Misfits boxing, right? Obviously, this is a Logan Paul lookalike. And I want to get into that fight, and I want to get into you loving the sport of boxing, but I want to backtrack and give the people a little bit about your history and how you got into where you are today. So first off, they call you Mr. Adventure for a reason. I mean, you made a business out of this. I mean, you're coming from oil pipelines to excursions and mental health. But during the pandemic, right, as many businesses, yours kind of took a hit, but it was also a blessing in disguise, right? So talk a little bit about what you were doing before the pandemic hit and how it affected you.
Yeah, 100%. So yeah, I grew up on the pipelines. I'm like a fourth generation pipeliner from Northern Canada. And then I moved over to the Yukon while I was in the pipeline industry. And so that was my home base. And then after I retired from the pipelines, I decided to take some of that money and start a company in the United States. So I started a company in the US, and it kind of did adventure excursions and retreats across America, Northern Canada, Alaska, Whitehorse, Yukon, and then Hawaii, all over the place. Like basically all my favorite spots, because I kind of wanted to jump around to places I like to travel to. So I started off with just taking my buddies out, and then it turned into a business and turned into, in 2017, we were running over 200 trips a year, and that just kind of snowballed and kind of grew my audience. So
but you brushed over that. But wait, how does you and your boys going out on a trip turn into a business? Like talk about that, because maybe you can inspire some people to do some stuff.
Bro, well, I was 16 years old when I joined the pipelines, right? And so I'm working my off with a bunch of rednecks. Everyone's pissed off at each other, and everybody would always like. I was only 16, so I had no money, right? And so I would hear these rumors, like guys saying like, oh, after this job's done, I'm going to go take a vacation to Mexico. And I'm like, damn, bro, I'm broke. Like, no, I can go to Mexico. What do you mean Mexico? So it would just became like that, that carrot in front of me to like always, as soon as the job was done, to get as far away as possible from that ecosystem, because it just sucked.
Right.
So I immediately fell in love with it, but it's just not very sustainable to travel a lot. So I kind of figured out how to travel more affordably. And then I realized that in America, there was actually a lot of beautiful places you can go that weren't as expensive as going to Europe and across the world. Right. And Hawaii is kind of where it started. And then, I just kind of got more extreme, started getting more involved in the local presence of Hawaii and different. And then I got into rock climbing, and then that brought me into like the other backcountry side of mountaineering. And it kind of just developed into me going to the next extreme and then started chasing the adrenaline until I love doing this stuff so much. And I'm a bit of like a pusher. Like I like to push things onto people. So I would push this onto my friends, and they hated, all the they hated skydiving, they hated hiking. We all kind of hated it at first, but then started realizing it's actually pretty good. It's a good time, and it's fun to go out with your buddies, and they wanted to keep coming out, and I couldn't afford to keep flying them out. So
wow.
Wait, and it kind of just snowballed from there. Like I was like, my buddies are like, hey, like maybe you should start a business out of this, so you're not draining your accounts to do all these. So started a couple trips. So I was like, hey, okay, everybody just kind of chip in, and then everybody started chipping in. It was like a club, and then I started promoting this stuff on Instagram, showing my adventures, and people started joining. And all of a sudden, next thing you know, there's hundreds of people like putting in requests for trips, and just I started the price kept going up and up and up, and it started becoming like a bit of a revolution within my own little ecosystem. And the thing is that in the adventure space, there's a lot of like cliques. And I mean, just growing up in school, there was a lot of cliques, right? And I was kind of the one that was kind of stayed out of the cliques. And when I tried going into the adventure clique, I was kind of the same thing. I was like the new guy on the block. Nobody really wanted me there. So I was like, well, like, I'll just make my own clique. And so I kind of just made my own clique, and people liked it. You know what I mean? And so that's kind of how it all started,
What's the scariest adventure you ever done?
I mean, bow hunting is pretty gnarly depending on where you're going in Alaska. You're alone, you know what I mean? So without getting into depth with that, I don't really share the hunting side of it, but that's probably the gnarliest one. And then mountaineering's pretty scary. It can get scary depending on what you're climbing and how long you're going out for.
Right.
But really, I try to have a balance of everything. So, but bow hunting's probably the gnarlier one because I like to predator hunt. So,
have you ever been on one of your adventures and said, "Okay, I think I'm about to die here"?
100%. I mean, yeah, over 100 times for sure.
Damn.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, a lot of times.
So it's basically safe to say that getting in the ring with somebody like not Logan Paul or anybody else for that matter is nowhere near as scary as the adventures you do on any given Tuesday.
Exactly, bro. Like it's definitely its own unique art, but on the side of things of like stepping outside of your comfort zone, which is definitely what every single time stepping in the ring is going to be like. 100% is going to, I'm kind of built for that. Though stepping in the ring was pretty gnarly. I mean, I got into that thing and I was like, oh shit.
I'll tell you what though. Look, I know a lot of brave guys that have skydived before, climbed a few mountains, and did some whitewater rafting that wouldn't get inside the ring. So you need a little something extra, right, to get inside that square circle and fight somebody. Yeah. So when did you realize you had that? That I think was raised off the pipelines. Like the guys are just tougher than hell up there, guys. Like minus 55-degree weather, like everyone's close quarters off at each other. And it just takes one wrong look before you're in a scrap on the back of a school bus. You know what I mean? Like, so that's probably what kind of brought that fight out of me. My brother was like, we always wrestled as kids and, just kind of had, I was bullied in school and anybody that tried to square up with me, I just had that, like, I didn't want to be told what to do. I just had that energy. I think there's like a factor in certain people, but there was many opportunities for me to become a fighter, but I just never wanted to go down that road because I know, and you guys all know, the life of a fighter isn't the most beautiful life. I mean, you're in camp all the time and you're not making a lot of money for years on end. And if you get a shot, like, and you might never make a lot of money.
Yeah,
exactly.
You might never get to that point. Yeah.
Or you might not come home the same way you left home.
Yeah,
so
that's the scariest part of it at all.
It's a brutal sport.
I feel like that's the scariest part, even the sparring. I mean,
so how long have you been boxing? I know you haven't had an amateur career, but I'm talking about sparring. Once you first were introduced to the sport, started hitting the bag, training, and then the first time you sparred, and obviously you have to. Once you get hit in the face, you realize if this is for you or it's not for you, right? Yeah. So how long have you been doing that?
Well, let me give you a little story. So in 2017, I decided, like I saw some guys, I was hanging out in Simi Valley, California. They used to have a ring at the Gold's Gym there, right in the center. It was badass. And the second I walked in that gym, I was like, damn, that'd be cool to learn how to box. You know what I mean? Like professional, like Rocky Balboa, And, but there were some guys in there that were really good. One guy, his name is Chris Strelo. He's like an amateur boxer. He looked really, really good. And I walked up to the guy and I was like, hey, like, do you ever want to you ever train in the garage or whatever? He's like, yeah, I'll teach you a couple things. So, I stayed committed to that for about like 6 months. And he just taught me how to have I had 2 left feet, you know what I mean? So he taught me how to like at least throw a jab properly.
Right.
But then, work just got crazy and I never did it and I fell off, but I loved the training aspect and I always wanted to come back to it. And then I met somebody, his name was Jacob Chavez, who was the cut man and the guy that wrapped the hands of Jake Paul. I met this guy in Vegas like about 2 years ago. And he bumped into me. He's like, hey, you ever boxed before? I was like, oh no, I play around on the bags, like whatever. I showed him a video and he's like, damn, dude, like you have something. I'm telling you that right now. And he was BJ Flores, cruiserweight contender. He fought for the world title multiple times, and
one time he got robbed, but that's another story. Go ahead.
Yeah, 100%. He definitely got robbed. That's crazy. But he trained him, and they were in camp with Jake at the time, and so I was like, well, shit, if this guy sees something, but I'm like, there's no way I'm going to get into this unless it's the perfect opportunity. So a year later, I ended up meeting a girl, Steffi Cohen, who is 25-time world powerlifter. We start dating. And she's pro boxer, so she's got like 7 fights.
Right.
And she's training at the time I think she had 5. She was training at Churchill's Boxing in Santa Monica. So I'm in the gym supporting her at every sparring session. I'm just in that energy, just feeling it out. And all the guys are in there, seeing me in there. They're like, the new boyfriend. Like, oh, how long is he gonna last? But then a smoker came around. And she was gonna fight, and I'm like, well, this seems like a good opportunity for me to like fight for a cause, try to raise some ticket sales for her fight coming up in LA.
Can you explain what a smoker is for those that don't understand?
So smoker event is like basically an amateur fight, like glorified sparring match where guys get together and they just watch everybody spar and they all have beers and it's just a party pretty much. But there's judges, there's a referee. It's a simulated amateur fight, but
got it.
It's just for fun, not for your record, just kind of a good time. So. All these pros are kind of pushing me. They're all kind of poking me, hey, get into it. But at that point, I wasn't even hitting the bag at all. And I went in a smoker, stopped it on the second round, like immediately in the second round. And Pedro Neme, who's the coach there, he's like, dude, you should consider boxing. He's like, come in on pro hours and you're going to be surrounded by pros and see what you think. And so I put in about a month of training before I got a call from a promotion in Russia with a fight offer to come fight in Russia. And I'm like, well, shit. So I called up Jacob Chavez and he's like, well, let me call BJ. He calls BJ up. They fly me to Las Vegas and they put me in the ring and they see my sparring and they're like, no, you got something for sure. Like we'll take you under our wing, which to me at the time was like, damn, this is the perfect alignment because BJ's only trained one person before. It was Jake Paul,
Right.
And if he retired from training Jake Paul, he got shot in the leg and he just couldn't have the commitment with the injury. So he jumped off the team and he was available, but he didn't want to coach. He just wanted to manage and oversee. But, I kind of poked him a little bit. I'm like, I'll give you everything. Like I will put all my time and energy into this. I'll full-time do this. So
you sound like some young 16-year-old kid talking to like Rocky's trainer.
28, man. I feel like I'm in my prime right now and I only got one shot to do this,
Right.
It took a lot to pull him to do it, man. Like he did not want to do it.
Right.
And, but he believed in me too. He's like, cause he didn't want to go back to training anybody. He was like, he's retired. He's got his investments. He's got his money. He doesn't need anybody,
Yes. Everybody
Everybody wants him to train them because what they did with Jake. But he's like, no, if you really want to take it that far and you're willing to put in the time to really learn the skill of boxing, let's do it. But I didn't want to do it unless I was full time with him. So he ended up moving into my place and
this is good.
So when did you get the call for Misfit? Like how did that opportunity come about?
So BJ's actually on the board of Misfits, which is a bit of a hack. But the problem is that we had a much higher prize fight offer in Russia and in Saudi Arabia. So I could have fought for a much larger purse there. However, I just I've heard, like, for example, Steffi, she fought in Dubai. She big card, fat purse, but she never went back because, the promotion fell apart.
Right.
So I'm like, I don't care about the money in this. I have my own money. I got my own stuff figured out. I want to have the best opportunity, the longest career with the most options, the most views. So what's the best option? And, DAZN has an incredible deal with Misfits and it's a legit outfit. Like they're rolling it out. Like, so I signed a 3-fight deal with Misfits, much smaller money we're talking, but it's just a better opportunity. There's more eyes on it, eyes that matter in my opinion. And there's the consistency. I mean, that's the reason I'm on the show with you guys. So,
I appreciate you giving the whole backstory because now it makes me happy to know that you're not just in this for the money, for one, and you're not just going to say, well, if I go in, I'll try and do this. Obviously, you're gonna be calling out guys like Jake Paul and KSI soon, because you're in this for the long haul. You're in this for the long haul, though. I get it though, but you're looking forward to that day. Is that true?
Oh, for sure. I want the biggest fights for sure. I think it's interesting what's going on in the influencer space. I think there's a lot of circus acts going on in it as well, and I don't want anything to do with those things. I mean, the Rodney Peterson, respect him 100%, but the not Logan Paul side of it.
Oh my God, that's weird.
It's weird as hell. And, I came into the picture, kind of with that perspective of him being that character and just rolling my eyes through, like, what am I doing? Why am I going to do this fight with this guy? I want something more competitive, until I heard that he had 25 MMA fights and we had no footage on it. So I was like, I better get ready for a fight.
When he squared up with you, he looked like he's never fought a day in his life.
100%.
He just had a lot of energy and tried to overwhelm you really quick. But you just kept your composure and did what you had to do.
I've had enough bar fights to know what it's like to get bare knuckle, But, with 10-ounce gloves professionally in front of thousands of people, that was something I was new to. So when he started flurrying, it didn't matter what his body position was doing. Those punches were flying, and I was just trying to make sure to have my.
You didn't get clipped with anything. But listen, you obviously still have a business, right? So I'm pretty sure you have a team. How does everybody feel about you giving boxing 100%? Like, are you lacking in other places as far as your business?
Yeah. Well, for sure. I mean, it's definitely going to take a toll no matter what when you put your focus in it. You take your focus off other things. Thankfully, I've built my companies out in a way that kind of run themselves. So the retreats, we don't actually run retreats anymore. We stopped doing that. During COVID, we gave all of our retreats away for free. And then as my personal brand grew, I started to develop relationships with brands that used to actually just support and sponsor our trips with free gear for everybody. So I took those brand relationships, started doing influencer deals with them, and then gave all that money and donated to trips to my followers. So that's kind of started growing faster on Instagram. Was I started giving trips away to people. Everyone was getting free trips. And then I started giving adventure gear away. I
saw you gave away like a couple of trailers. I was like, hold on, I might have to sign up for this one now.
But that's a smart business decision. I mean, because most people would say, hey, let's make some money out of this. You wasn't worrying about making money. You were thinking more of the long run. Let me gain an audience, a community that eventually would pay off.
Exactly. And that has definitely paid off tenfold, because the fact that I focused on the community rather than the influence. Here's the thing, guys, like I'm stepping into the ring of Misfits boxing, and not as the biggest player in here. Like there's influencers that are way bigger than me that are on cross platforms, on TikTok, on X, on YouTube, on Instagram. They're on every platform. They're live streaming. They got different types of eyes on every angle. And here I come from, like, I'm just kind of more of a redneck dude that likes social media.
Redneck with 2.1 million followers on Instagram. That's a big one.
I'm like one trick pony kind of, because I'm like just on Instagram, so I got to kind of expand and get on the other platforms. And that's kind of what I'm competing against. But again, what I said was I want to focus on the community. I care more about the quality of the people within it than anything else. So that's really paid off though, because now, I mean, so I have a film production company, so that runs its own little outfit, and that pretty much makes my money for me. But me and my girl just started a new company. It's called Revived Method, which is it's a fitness training program inspired by physical therapy, which I am a huge believer of physical therapy, because I had a number of injuries that were preventing me from doing my adventures. And through physical therapy and training in a more unique way and applying that to my own fitness structures, I was able to now become a pro boxer. So whereas 2 years ago I could barely run, now I'm running marathons because of that type of training. So when we launched this thing, like we launched it this year on New Year's, we gained thousands of members overnight, the quality of the audience, and people are reaching out like, hey, Tristan, they have these stories, and that's what's quality about it. That's what I like about it.
That's amazing. Congrats on that. Listen, after your big win, can you talk about, before we get out of here, I want to know what's next for you, right? Can you talk about 100%. What was said to you? What was, anybody was offered, any names was thrown at you by Misfits? What does Misfits have lined up for you for the next 2 fights?
Yeah, I mean, we were already talking about names. I want Dillon Danis. I think that'd be fire.
Really?
But I know he asked for a lot of money, so we're going to see what we can do about that. But that's what I want. I want Dillon Danis. That would be an incredible fight. I think it'd be hilarious coming off doing the job that he couldn't do with Logan Paul, with the not Logan Paul guy. It could be entertaining,
Well, so why him specifically?
I just think that, he's one of those guys that kind of came into the influencer boxing space and started spreading a lot of and I don't think Logan Paul did the job that he was supposed to. So I'd like to come in as an influencer that actually can box and can show that he can actually get the job done properly. And I think with the right training, I can do it. And
that's a great point. That's a great point. But are you ready for the shenanigans? Let's just say you get this fight with Dillon Danis. Are you ready for those shenanigans? Because that kind of stuff is tough. When he's talking about your girl, he's talking about this, he's talking about your mother, he's talking about everything. Are you ready for that?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that my brain isn't indulged into social media, so I don't really care. I'm in the gym training. So at the end of the day, I want to put on a good fight. I know the promotion's the other half of it, but I got thick skin. So I don't know if he's going to want to take it. I don't think he would want to, but that's what I want. I know there's a couple other big guys that got big mouths as well. There's another guy, HS Tiki-Taki. He was talking in our camp to BJ Flores and just kind of like just spreading anything. And that's the thing with these guys that really bothers me is there's a lot of people in here that, it's so funny because they're trying to push the promotion so hard and they're talking some serious shit. And there's some influencers in here that aren't going to take that shit. and I'm one of them for sure.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. I train. A friend of mine owns a gym where Dillon Danis trains, and I've trained in the same gym with him a few times. So when I run into him, the next time I'm gonna.
He's already on my story. I see him lurking.
Oh, really?
He's lurking?
No, I called him out today. I put it on my Twitter. He was already on it.
Oh, wait till we
it.
post this. It's over now.
Let's go, Dillon. Let's make it happen,
get you
baby.
that fight, Dillon.
Yeah, you know,
there.
you know what? At the end, guys, you know, I think it would be cool to have guys kind of clean it up a little bit. Like Dillon shouldn't be going as hard as he did. Like that was, but I don't think he needs to sell a fight. I think that there's other ways you can sell a fight. I think there's ways to be respectful and show a good fight. I mean, like people want to see a good fight, and I think people are over these like little cat fights that are at Misfits. The WWE style that it has is cool and it's unique and it's got its little category. But I think it would be dope to have some serious fights where guys are gonna really scrap.
And it's a nice little shot you throw at Logan too, what Logan should have did. So in other words, you want to knock Dillon Danis out.
No, I believe you said what Logan couldn't do.
That's what I said. What he couldn't do. That's exactly what I said. So exactly. I like to see that happen, man, and see if you can do what Logan couldn't do. Dillon Danis, the call out is out here on the DAZN Boxing Show. I can't wait to see what's next, man. You're fun to watch inside the ring, and we'll see what Misfits lines up for you next. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having me, you guys, and everybody that's watching. Thank you so much. Check out my Twitter.
Pleasure, brother.